Welcome to the PR Bunker Podcast, the war room for PR, marketing, and media strategy. Hosted by me, Don Martelli, former reporter turned PR and marketing strategist with over 20 years of experience in reputation management, media relations, and brand positioning. Each episode, I cut through the noise and get real about the challenges and opportunities in PR, marketing, and corporate communications. I sit down with innovators, disruptors, big thinkers, and challengers who are reshaping industries, breaking the rules, and making headlines. Whether it's navigating a crisis, crafting the perfect pitch, or building a brand that actually sticks, this is where strategies are built, stories come to life, and reputations are won or lost. If you're in the trenches of PR and marketing, buckle up. This is the PR Bunker. No fluff, no bullshit, no spin, just the real talk you need to lead in today's media landscape. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me on the PR Bunker Podcast. Really excited about my conversation today. Mike and I didn't know each other up until like 3 or 4 months ago, but we have a mutual friend that connected us, and we absolutely hit it off right away. And I was like, I got to have Mike on the PR Bunker Podcast, just like me, veteran in the PR comm space, doing some really cool, interesting stuff with the agencies with. But Mike, thanks for joining me today.
No, I'm super excited to be here.
So tell my bunker friends here about yourself. Like, what do you do for work? Who do you work for? How'd you get there? Tell us your story.
Man, that's a big question. So I'm Mike Adorno. I'm an SVP and partner at Hot Paper Lantern here in New York City. Hot Paper Lantern is a boutique PR agency, PR and branding agency focused in on PR, social, web work, design, social, in the manufacturing, data center, and energy space, as well as financial services and tech. One of the things that I do that's a little bit different as well is I lead a specialty group within the agency called Digital Sport by HPL. And we are focused in on using all the best aspects of our agency, but focused in on sports tech, sports data, the changing economics of college sports and NIL, as well as like streaming media and whatnot. It's really cool. It's really awesome. I love doing this at this agency for the past 7 years. And, you know, it's a passion of mine. So
That's good
very
stuff.
excited to talk about it.
Well, I mean, the explosion of just the business around sports has been incredible in the last handful of years, and clearly you've been doing it for quite some bit. So, how'd you get there? Like, I mean, you didn't wake up one day and be like, hey, I want to do PR in sports. I mean, most people could do that as an athletic director at a college or work for a team, but like what you described at the agency level and the service you provide is just different. Like, how'd you get there?
Yeah. So just to go back a little bit, I mean, I've been doing PR for about 20 years, and I've always been in an area that I've always done PR. So like I've had the tools and the applications and the science of it, but I've always done different things in the background. So like when I came out of college, I really wanted to be in the music industry. I wanted to be a music promoter. I could not find a job for the life of me at a record label or anything, but I ended up networking with somebody who introduced me to somebody, and they got me an internship at this small boutique agency in New York, and their focus was in back-end systems technology. I was like, all right, well, we're going to figure this out. And through that experience, I've always, it led to another job, it led to another job, and I've worked in-house and I've worked at agencies, all with different topics. So from like tech to financial services to luxury real estate to cybersecurity to, consulting. It's always been to this next level, but all of those experiences have kind of given me a very unique perspective about storytelling, PR, how people operate, how people absorb information. Because I think a lot of PR people go into PR with a very singular focus, and maybe they're lucky and they find the vertical that they love right away. Like when I worked in real estate, those people loved real estate. And then I've worked with people in healthcare and they love healthcare. And they kind of take that track, and that's awesome. And they're able to like be super experts. I've kind of taken kind of a generalist approach, but at the end of the day, I've always loved sports. It's been a passion of mine. I rode in college. We have a share affinity for the Red Sox. And when I came to the agency that I am now, I had connections because I used to work at KPMG, and my particular agency had another Big Four consulting firm as a client, and I could kind of speak the language. And I started working on financial services tech, consulting. And then my boss came in 2019 and said, the Supreme Court just turned down the monopoly on sports betting. And this is kind of a unique opportunity because it's a brand new market. It's a brand new area. There's not like there's agencies set up for sports betting in America. Why don't we try it? And the interesting thing was, we had this collective experience, and I walked into my boss's office that day and I said, I will do whatever it takes to get on that team. And they're like, awesome, go for it. And so from that day, we've kind of built up digital sport to be kind of this anomaly in the space, because there are there's tons of agencies that focus in on player development or players or like selling balls or jerseys or hats or whatever. And we really focus in on the B2B aspect of sports, which is different and very fascinating, because the business of sports now is expanding rapidly. I think anybody can turn on their TV or think about the fan experience from going to a game. So it's not just buying the ticket anymore. You're going to go to a game and you're going to sit there and they're going to give you maybe an AR experience on your phone where you're following around on the game. Yeah. Or your ticket is digitized to where you're getting push notifications or specific marketing that targets you. Like, hey, look, you can buy a beer during the second half and then you get 20% off on a hat because you happen to like hats or whatnot. But even if you watch TV, your fan experience is different. Soon you're going to be able to have widgets within the game that you're watching where your sports betting wallet will be lined up and you'll be able to do things really fast like that. But the business of sports and the vendors and the companies that are creating those experiences, it's not Nike, you're not seeing the shoe, but like everything that you experience from that is we have a hand in, and it's awesome to be
very cool
right there watching it happen.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, clearly your experience, not just in sports, but elsewhere. I'd love for you to talk about the contrast, right? We talk about like fintech technology, consumer work, whatever you've done in the past. I'm sure there's some principles in PR that apply to your work here, but like talk about the, what's different now about the work, and I'd love to walk me through a case study or two. Anything you're kind of proud of the team has really rocked on, and clients you guys are really doing some cool work. So sort of give me some examples, because it is totally new. I mean, I think people understand. Yes, you can bet on games, and there's this stuff happening around that experience that marketers like you are architecting. And with intent to buy, to experience, to do things versus just kind of watching the basketball and the baseball go back and forth up and down the field. But just talk to me about like kind of the minutia of the work and how it's kind of the same from like when you started and what's different about it now.
So I think the biggest change from what started when we started to now is just the number of people, the number of eyeballs on it. If you think about there's always, in every vertical, there's going to be trades and there's going to be national press attached to it. There's different pockets of digital press or magazines that are popping up right now on the sports business side. And if you even think about like a front office sports, they really map themselves out to be this like, it's much more consumer focused. Like it's almost like Sports Illustrated for the front office topic. So there's a lot of different eyeballs looking into it. And there's a lot of interest from people that aren't in the business about how the business of sports is run. And there's a lot of really great things. And I think at its core, it doesn't matter what vertical you're in. I think the principles are the same. Yes, the topics are different. So from healthcare to sports to, financial services, the topics and how you describe it and the risk involved is different. But at the end of the day, as a PR person, it's about, is the story good? Am I working with am I just being dictated to and just having them tell me what to do? Or am I working with them to be like, all right, you have this element or you have this partnership or this storyline or whatever. How do I make this into an interesting story? And then you got to think about the whole spectrum. So yes, if you're a B2B practitioner like myself, the end goal is the person buying it on the business side. However, that does funnel back to how does the person at the end experience it? So the consumer or the fan or what have you. So, and I think you need to do this in financial services as well, but you need to take the story and make it, how do I make this B2B? How do I make this B2B2C? And then you can kind of map out different stories from. So is the story good is one. Two, at the end of the day, there's so many new digital products coming out. And how do we make this faster? How do we make this more efficient? But with our jobs, no matter how much tech comes through, relationships are still the number one, number two, whatever, how you ever want to rank them. I think the core of what this is. And it doesn't matter if you have every bell, whistle, piece of technology that's going to send out emails faster, find people faster. If you cannot connect with the person that you're trying to influence, then what's the point?
Point valid. I mean, I think when you and I first met, we talked a lot about how we got to where we are, which is never clean, always kind of messy for our PR people. And I love the sort of the talk track you had there around the individuals and the connection, because you could have a good story, but you might not have the right time or right data points. But like if you have a relationship with a reporter, you can at least have the conversation around, hey, look, Mike, I got this idea. Let's kick it around, and they're willing to have the conversation. So good stuff. It sounds like the business is probably booming because things. I mean, sports is big business, and like I'm sure teams and companies and folks that are doing stuff in the space are looking for agencies like yours to kind of help propel their reputation, drive business. But you landed in a couple spaces that I wanted to explore, and it's sort of around business, but less about the agency and the work, but really around networking. I'm fascinated by how people in communications and marketing get to where they are. Not a lot of us, go on to these platforms and apply for a job. It's the networking that we do that gets us here. And I'm a firm believer that everybody has their own habits around networking. I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on like how your network has helped you professionally. What are the things you do to network? And if you're talking to your 20-year-old self and be like, hey, Mike, knock, 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 hey, pay attention to these things. What are the things you'd tell yourself around how to build your network? And how has it been fruitful for you professionally?
So I can tell this to everybody listening. I'm not the world's greatest networker. When I got out of college, networking was like the strain on my soul. Like going to a ballroom or some sort of conference center where they give you a tag that says, hi, I'm Mike. And then you walk up to people and try to start a conversation. And then trying to find common ground very quickly just is like panic inducing. I never liked it. I always found it very uncomfortable. And so for years, I never focused in on my network the way I should have, which was wrong. I think the integration of LinkedIn is probably one of the greatest things that's happened to networking. I can't forever, I guess. You were able to go to LinkedIn and you were able to find common ground with people right away. So where you went to school, where you went to high school, the industry you're in, whether you used to work at the same company. And more often than not, people really just want to talk and they want to help other people. You'd be surprised about how many people you send a note, you're like, hey, look, hey, we went to the same college. I'm looking to grow my network. I see that we're both in sports. Love to grab 15 minutes. And most of the time, I would say 80% of the time they come back. If they respond, they're just like, yeah, let's do this. Let's grab some time. And then you spend a half hour with them, 45 minutes, and then those points connect. And you're like, oh, we could actually collaborate and do this. So if I had to tell my 20-year-old self, or if I had to talk to a college graduate or somebody that's listening here that's probably in the same shoes as I was back then, I'm like, oh my God, going to a networking event would cripple me.
Mm.
Start out with LinkedIn. We have the ability to find those connections already. You don't need to be like, oh, hey, what are you into? And it's too awkward. And just say like, hey, look, I'd love to learn. You have a really interesting position. I'd love to grab 10 minutes of your time and, learn about what you're doing and be curious. I think something that turns a lot of people off on LinkedIn or even like direct marketing is there's so much sales. It's a lot of push. It's like, hey, look, I want this, or hey, I want to talk to you, but I want to talk to you about my stuff. And I think people need to be a little bit, when it comes to networking, be genuine in the fact that you want to learn about somebody else to, one, connect with another person, learn about another job, but also better yourself. Because the more you know about what's happening around you, the smarter you can be and the smarter strategies that you can come back to your clients with.
Yeah, I could agree with you more. I'm on this kick, and it's around that networking is broken because people have forgotten to do exactly what you described, Mike, which was, hey, Don, love the work you're doing at the PR Park. I'd love to learn more. Let's have a conversation. Great, Mike. Can we have a conversation? Versus, hey, Mike, love to connect with you. Here's a sheep farm in Nebraska I'd love to sell you. I'm like, what? Sheep farm? What are you talking about, bro? So I think people have forgotten. I think LinkedIn has kind of grown to this point where it's become this massive, like, control A, select all, let's get everybody on my network. And people are forgetting to kind of do this one-on-one. It's like, even with my work through Alignable, which is really kind of LinkedIn, but for small business owners, and it's all designed around relationships. It's just about connecting with people on an authentic, honest way. And I always, when I'm sort of coaching and mentoring younger folks, I'm like, you want to do work with people that you know, that you like, and you trust, right? And it doesn't happen right away. you and I may never do business together ever, or we might do business in 3 or 4 years. I mean, there's clients I've chased for like half a decade before they signed on, but because I stayed consistent. So what are the things that you do like on a daily, weekly basis that are like, the tech people call it hacky, but like, what are the habits you have around networking that just outside of being a good dude, human, and asking good questions and having conversations like us comms people do? Like, what tools do you use? Anything that you kind of like sticky notes, a little smoke signals, whatever. What do you do to kind of have good habits around networking?
I do like sticky notes. I do have like another screen behind here. I do have notes about things I need to remember, or things I need to do, habits I need to keep. I use LinkedIn religiously. But I think the other thing is, yes, I block time off in my calendar twice a week where I'm like, all right, I'm going to work on Sales Navigator for a little bit, and I'm going to try and find different opportunities to meet new people. And I always, one of the things that I think is important, and I wanted to go back to relationships for a little bit, but I think one of my credos is to be of service. I heard this Howard Stern interview years ago with, oh my gosh, Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine, who was the CEO of Interscope. He was a famous record producer, and he did beats with Dre. And Howard had a question for him where he said, what's the biggest piece of advice you could give to people? And he said, be of service. And he told a story about how he was sweeping floors at the record plant, and he was doing little odd jobs here and there, trying to learn how to be an engineer, trying to learn how to be a producer. And it was Easter Sunday, and he was at his family's house out in deep Brooklyn. And he got a call saying, hey, an artist wants to come in and do a session. The regular engineers are out. Come in. And he was like, well, I could stay at home and I'd be fine, but like, this is my time. Like, let me show value to myself. And so he goes and he starts setting things up, and John Lennon walks in. And so he goes, from that moment, he appreciated the fact that I gave up my time to be of service to him so he could jot down this idea. And then he made all of these other connections for him. So I know that's kind of it's not an apples to oranges example, but it's always kind of rung true.
Yeah.
And going and connecting that with networking. There's tons of people out there that are looking for work. There's people out there that are trying to find new opportunities, or there's people out there that, they've been laid off or let go and they need a soundboard, and they need somebody to read a writing sample or something. And I've been in their shoes before, and it sucks and it's soul crushing. And I've always said, like, it's better to be of service. And that's such another great networking tool that I try to do as much as possible. If I know people in those situations, my network's always open to them. I'm always open to them, and I want them to reach out and ask for help, or I'll reach out to them and ask for help. And I think that's critically important. I think people need to have that sort of vision and empathy. But one other thing I wanted to mention, going back to relationships, we were talking about being curious and being genuine in your curiosity. It goes back to media. Like, there's a whole mess of different PR people, right? And I'm a media relations guy to my core. And nothing drives me crazier than when PR people do not create relationships. And I tell my team, like, out of the gate, I would rather, my goal for you is that this person and you have a text relationship. I want you, know when they have their birthdays. Where did they go to school? How many kids do they have? When do they like to get pitches? Some people are like, hey, look, after 2:00 on Wednesday is when I read. Awesome. I will send you things in bullet form on Wednesdays after 2. And I want them to build that type of relationship before they even pitch. Because if you're just pushing and pushing and pushing, it doesn't help. It's just noise. But if you genuinely want to understand the people that you need to influence, so if there's reporters in the college space, or if there's reporters on the financial services space, and you make your list and you're like, all right, these are the people that I need to influence for my client to be successful. Go get to know them way before you pitch anything, because it's going to make such the difference. And be genuine, want to work with them versus just like, here's my stuff and I want you to go write about it.
Yeah, smart.
So I think that's, if you boil everything down to what I just said, it's about being a genuinely curious, good person that wants to help other people.
No, I mean, if you understand what this individual is covering, their habits, their interests, how to get a hold of them, when not to bug them, how they want to be pitched in any way, shape, or form. And you have news that's brief, that's, basically the headline is the subject line. And all those things matter. I mean, you're still dealing with a little bit of luck in the world doing its things, and the economy, the market, global wars, you name it. There's stuff that happens. But I think the message there is, learning about the other person and what makes them tick so you can help them, right? I'll often ask reporters, like, hey, what else are you working on? Is there anything else I can help you with? Yeah, Don, I got this other story. Do you have anybody that you know that can be blah, blah, blah? And that's just networking. Hey, John, like, I don't have a client in this space, but I got a buddy of mine that runs a small private equity company who can absolutely talk about that, so on and so forth. So it's just, I'm a firm believer that networking looks like a boomerang. And you toss that out because you're helping people, it absolutely comes back. And then with reporters, as it relates to the business and comms, then reporters come to you. Hey, I'm working on the story. Who do you got? And if you become one of those short stack, business cards that they come back to on a regular basis, you're adding value, you're building relationship. And it's the same premise with like you and I, or us and our mutual friend, networking and providing that value. And just in an age of digital AI, always on speed, data, people forget that it's still human to human, regardless if it's a PR person and a reporter. And frankly, reporters that know that you get it, respond to your stuff, because even if they like this, hey, Don, I can't believe you pitched me this because it's still horseshit. And I had to pitch it because I know the client wants me to pitch it, but at least they'll be honest with me. And I was like, John, I know this is not news, but I got to send this along. If you're kind of sort of interested, winging a prayer here, let me give a holler. But I think to your point, authenticity, transparency, honesty, creativity, a little bit of good luck and timing, I think, helps with your career, your trajectory. It's the reason why you're at that firm now. Relationships you have with reporters. A couple questions before we wrap up. One, what's next for the agency? Clearly, you've been in the space for a little bit, still relatively in its infancy stage, right? But I know agencies that work for them. They're always thinking about the next thing, and it's not the next month; it's the next 6 to 12 to 18. What's next for you guys?
Yeah, so continuing to grow, monitoring the economic situation to see how clients are adapting to what's happening out there. But I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of any dip in the market. There's companies that want to get out there and make some noise because everybody else kind of quiets down. I do know that we're really digging in on I call it the HPL side. But with manufacturing, energy, data centers, we have a number of clients in that sector, and it's only growing, especially as AI grows. The need for those types of companies and their storytelling to be out there, it just becomes much more exponential. And then on the sports side, everything continues to evolve. I think I said earlier that we started with sports betting, and we looked at it. We're like, okay, well, we can live and die by sports betting, but what we're finding is that there's this undercurrent of fan engagement. And so it's kind of led us on this path where we're continually developing new thoughts to jump into. And it's been the best decision we've ever made. And it's helped us grow this particular group within the agency. So we went from sports betting to data to tech. And then so that continues to evolve. And now we're really jumping into, and not just jumping into, but we are very heavily involved in the NIL and the college economics standpoint here. And so that'll continue to grow, but then there's always going to be something next. 2 years down the road, who knows what happens. So we're always one of those agencies that doesn't look at our shoes. And we're always looking at what's around the next corner and how do we take what we're doing now, maximize it, and evolve to what's next.
All right, well, listeners out there, when you're at a game and you get these in-game experiences and you're buying another beer or a jersey or a hat, just, when you look at your bank account the next day, just come and play Mike, because not only are you spending $2,000 for a ticket, but he's also getting you to buy this other stuff because you've created some cool experience. But good stuff, Mike. So outside of all this, because we know that PR people have all the free time in the world, and we're not busy people at all. In all your free time, give me a guilty pleasure, something you're reading, a hobby you do. Just give me a little salt and pepper of you as the man. What's your guilty pleasure? What are some either hobbies you have or something that kind of gives me a little color commentary?
I've got 2 kids, 10 and 8, so it's usually hanging out with them or being a underpaid Uber driver for their activities.
Duber, as I call it, Dad Uber.
Dad Uber, totally. I love to cook when I can. I love to make cocktails and entertain when I can.
Nice. Favorite dish to make?
Favorite dish to make?
For a relatively smaller party.
Oh, man.
Say 6 people.
I got this like pulled chicken tinga, like Mexican style. People really do enjoy that.
Nice.
Another thing I've been trying to do is read.
Mm.
I've been trying to like read different things, not just like novels, but I like to read biographies of people because I like to see like the one-to-one. Maybe there's things in there. And I just read this book, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara, which is fantastic. And, you know, he's a famous restaurateur who helped build up 11 Madison Park and the Nomad Hotel. He's got tons of stories in here about like going above and beyond for clients, and guests at his restaurants. And actually, a lot of the stories have been turned into storylines for the Bear because he's a executive producer on it.
Very cool.
And so it's a great book. And, you know, going back at our core as PR people, it's hospitality. So I think it's a fun read, and I think anybody who's in PR should check it out because it is a fun
Love
book to
that.
check out.
Because I mean, one of the things we do in PR is that we read just about anything because our clients are just working on things that we have to learn. That's why we're dangerous. The rooms that you don't like to go into, those 500 ballroom people and networking and handing out business cards, we're pretty dangerous because we can talk about nanotubes, NBA design, restaurants, sports betting, sports technology, MBA, you name it. As PR people, we're like born sponges, right? That's our job. So good stuff. Now, where can people find out more about the agency and the work that you do?
Yeah. So they can go to hotpaperlantern.com. It has everything to check out, plus our contact information, or you can find me up on LinkedIn.
Got it.
Yeah.
Networking.
So networking. Keep it up.
Good stuff. Well, Mike, I appreciate you joining me today on the PR Bunker podcast. Looking forward to seeing what else comes out of the work you and the agency doing there, because something tells me that there's a lot more money to be made and some more innovations and probably getting me to more spend money at the Boston Garden. So I love you, but I hate you at the same time.
I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for joining.